What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video party. I'm so excited to upload this one for you guys because in this video we'll be taking a look at the next installment of the Sword Art Online franchise, Sword Art Online Progressive Sherzo of a Deep Night. Man, that is a hard title to pronounce. So SAO Progressive is a spin-off slash mid-quel series that takes place during the events of the first season of Sword Art Online, but instead of watching it from Kirito's perspective, we're actually watching the story unfold through the eyes of Asuna. And we saw how she got trapped in the game in the first movie, SAO Progressive Aria of a Starless Night, which I did a review back in 2021. So if you want to hear my thoughts about that movie, you can find a link in the description down below. But anyway, going back to this movie, the story takes place a couple of months after the events of the first film, where we now see both Kirito and Asuna working together and now trying to prevent two groups from going to war with one another. And one of the things that made me sort of geek out a bit is the fact that the story takes place at the end of the year 2022, and there's going to be a big giant boss raid at the end of the year to celebrate the new coming year, which is 2023. And just knowing that right now, the story is actually currently caught up with today's time. And it just makes me all giddy knowing that right now, both Kirito and Asuna are still stuck in the game and grinding their way through and killing as much monsters as they can. So yeah, I was sort of geeking out a bit like, oh my god, they're both in the game right now. But going back to the movie, one of the things that I also liked was the fact that right off the bat, you already get a sense of how both Kirito and Asuna are already becoming this elite unit that we see in the first season of the show. And what better way to showcase this than by starting off the movie with a big boss fight where we get to see both of our characters work hand in hand with one another in order to take down this big monster. But while we do see these two characters work well together, we get a nice little glimpse of what the overall conflict of the story is going to be when we see two opposing groups struggle to work together in order to take down this big boss. And as we move further in the story, we soon learn that it is because of the leadership behind these two groups that they're struggling to work together. And if they continue to behave like this, at some point these two groups are going to go to war with one another. So it's pretty much up to Kirito and Asuna to try to prevent these two groups from killing each other. Because when you look at the story and timeline, these are the only two groups that are clearing the game. And if they kill each other, then the chances of everyone escaping this game begin to diminish. Also, one of the things I liked about the movie was how it both diverges from what we know from the anime and yet brings back some familiarity that gives us some nostalgia moments. And what I mean by that is that there are a lot of familiar moments that a lot of SAO fans will recognize, but we're seeing it through the eyes of Asuna's perspective. And when you look at the things that are different, it really does put you on the edge of your seat, because during the big climactic battle that happened at the end of the first movie, you do get a sense of wondering like, wait a second, is this going to be a reboot or is this some alternate timeline, because this fight happened a lot differently. Thankfully, we didn't diverge too far from the timeline, but going in this movie, you do see that there are a lot of different things added, such as Asuna interacting with different characters and different fights as well, which is very exciting because given how we didn't see these boss fights in the original anime, because when you look at the first season of SAO, there are a lot of time jumps that happen in between episodes, so it's pretty cool seeing these big boss fights that we've never seen before. Now, while I enjoyed most of the movie, that doesn't mean that it's perfect, and unfortunately, some of the issues that I had with the story revolve mostly around Asuna, because while there are plenty of moments where we get to see how she has grown into a very strong character, there are also moments where she is very vulnerable, and this happens throughout the entire movie where we'll get a scene where she is a complete and total badass, followed by a moment where she just starts breaking down in tears. Now I get it, no one is perfect, and we do need to see those moments where our characters are imperfect, because it is those imperfections that make us relate to the characters even more. And when you watch those characters grow out of their imperfections into someone better, we love that character 10 times more. But to have those moments occur every 20 minutes or so, it gets old really quick. Another thing that also sort of bothered me was the lack of the character Mito, who was introduced in the first SAO Progressive film as Asuna's best friend. And given how she had such a big role in the first movie and was pretty much the spin-off's main side character, I thought we were going to see more of her in this film. Well, unfortunately, without going into spoilers, we do see her, but it's after the second act of the movie, which is unfortunate given how this character has fallen very far since the last time we saw her. However, thankfully, most of the high praise for best supporting side character goes to a character called Argo, who was seen at the very end of the first movie, but when you look back at the first scene of Sword Art Online, she was actually in a sort of blink and you'll sort of miss it moment with Kaito, as she is this sort of info broker slash scout that goes ahead of groups, reports what she finds, and then sells her info back for coin. So it's pretty cool to see how this one side character, who's pretty much in the background most of the time, now be able to step forward and take the stage alongside with Kaito and Asuna. And the way she interacts with them, it's very interesting, as it's almost like watching a cat play with a mouse, which is pretty fun to watch. But still, even though Argo was probably one of the best characters of the movie, I really do wish we got to see a little bit more of Mito, so fingers crossed that she gets a much bigger role in the third movie. Also, because this is a meat quill as it takes place during the events of the first season of Sword Art Online, we do need to address the big issue, which is having existing characters in very dangerous situations, knowing that they're going to survive given how we see them later on in the anime. And yes, there are moments where we do see both Kaito and Asuna in danger, and knowing that they survive in the anime, it does take you out of the moment for a bit, but I think the main purpose of these spin-off movies is to show us the journey that Asuna is going through right now. Because when you look at the first film, she was this scared little girl who almost died. And when you look at this movie, you can see how she's close to becoming a badass, except for the moments where she does make a couple of mistakes, but she's on the right path. And I have a feeling that by the end of the third movie, she's going to be the Asuna that we know and love. Now, just to be clear, at the time of recording this video, there hasn't been any announcements of a third movie. But after looking through the light novels, we're pretty much more than halfway done with SAO Progressive. And I already have a feeling of what the title is going to be, given how the studio has been using the titles of the light novels as the titles of their movies. So mark my words, right now, I think the title of the third and final SAO Progressive movie is going to be Sword Art Online Progressive Rhapsody of Crimson Heat. Oh man, that title alone is enough to give me goosebumps. But going back to this movie, despite some of its flaws, I still enjoy it as we see more of Asuna's journey into becoming Lightning Flash Asuna. One of the other things that made me enjoy this movie a lot more was the fact that I did get to meet the English voice actors of both Kaito and Asuna. And upon meeting them, I did say that SAO was my first anime in general and has been my #1 favorite anime of all time, which got them very excited to say that, hey, be sure to check out our movie, Sherzo Of Deep Night. And going into this movie, I was thinking to myself, okay, I have to keep my promise. I have to watch this movie for them. But anyway, if you're a big SAO fan like me, chances are you're probably going to like this movie. Or if you're someone who's just getting started into Sword Art Online, then maybe you should start the series with these progressive films so that you can get a clear idea of who Asuna is before going into the anime. So like I said, I still enjoyed watching this movie because Sword Art Online is my favorite anime of all time, and I cannot wait for the next installment of this franchise. Well, that's going to do it for this video, guys. That was my overall review on Sword Art Online Progressive Sherzo Of Deep Night. If you like what you saw, click the subscribe button to see what's up from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye-bye.